This programme is sponsored by IG, official investment platform of England Cricket.
Welcome to the Sky Cricket Vodcast. Welcome to Trent Bridge too, where England have only beat the West Indies here once in all the times that they've played Test match cricket. They have started to rectify that beautifully well on day one. They're currently 408 for 8 at the back end of the day. Welcome to Stuart Broad and Mark Butcher. There was a lot of action before the coin even went up today because there was an unveiling of an end. You must be absolutely over the moon.
Do you know what? Hearing it on the commentary, it still feels quite surreal to hear a bowler coming on from the Stuart Broad end. I think for me, I grew up watching my dad here as a 3-4-year-old running on the outfield. Every time the lunch break and the tea break came, I'd be running onto I'd be playing on the wicket. Chris Wokes, edge, more bold.
And it's Holder and the slips. He put one down today, and we'll certainly talk about the West Indians, catching in this little segment as well. But he's taken this one, not grasped it, definitely taken it. And England are now 9 down.
I grew up. I think Trent Bridge played such a big role in me, my inspiration for the game and enthusiasm for the game, and then to be lucky enough to represent Nottinghamshire and play for England here. Was incredibly special. So, I don't view it as sort of an end named after me. I see it named after my family and the relationship we have with Nottingham, the city, the county, and the club. And really special. And to me, I can't wait to bring Annabella up here and sit in there and hopefully in the future watch her run in from that end.
Now, if I can quote you on comms as well, because I thought this was lovely. They promised me that if I yanked it hard enough, it would come off.
The ringing of the bell. I can't remember saying that, but it does sound
all day.
It does sound like a direct quote.
Oh no! I jotted it down straight away.
I must admit, it's quite an easy job that, but I was quite nervous of how to do it. I might just shut my mouth now in case I get it.
I think we'll move on. Anyway, we got to the coin toss. The coin went up. It fell the West Indies' way, and Brathwaite decided to have a bowl first, and everyone went, interesting.
Yeah, I think I can understand why. There's been a lot of rain around. The pitch was a little bit on the soft side. And, of course, you then factor in that they didn't manage to bat 90 overs in 2 innings at Lord's. And so, all things told, I think he felt his best way of being getting into the game and perhaps, getting themselves into a position where they weren't out of it on first innings was by bowling first. Unfortunately, having watched plenty of cricket here, you kind of thought, well, what that means really is it's going to be probably a little bit slow. There may be a little bit of movement early on with the brand new ball, but generally speaking, it's going to be good for batting. The outfield's quick. And they got a wicket in the first over and would have thought, well, great, what a terrific decision. And then in the very next over, Ben Duckett hit 4 consecutive fours off Jayden Seales and England were away. I mean, the assault in the first 4 or 5 overs was astonishing from England. Ben
Duckett was scrambling for record books at one stage because he was going at a clip. I mean, he usually goes at a clip, but particularly his driving was absolutely sublime and just set England on a wonderful path in that first session.
Yeah, he did what Ben Duckett was brought into the side to do, and he stuck to his strength. He played some eye-catching shots, actually. He didn't just rely on a cut and a clip and a pull. He hit some great drives down the ground, and it looked like a brilliant pitch to bat on this morning when you missed as a bowler. But then also when you got it right as a bowler, you could see there was a little bit there for you as well. I think it was a missed opportunity from the West Indies bowlers in that first hour. I think they gave away far too many freebie boundaries in a sense, not to take anything away from the quality of England's batting. Yeah. But when the West Indies changed their game plan at the drinks break and settled in a little bit more, and maybe the bowlers came back for their second spell and the nerves are gone, they had a much better second hour and you could see the ball beginning to talk a little bit more. So huge credit for Ben Duckett. And what Ben Duckett does, because he's an unusual sort of styled player, he's not a traditional hit down the ground and leave and see off the new ball. He can put you off your line of length and make you try and chase him a little bit. Yeah. And I think that's what the West Indies fell into. They sort of chased his wicket, fell into width to him, and that's one thing you cannot afford to do to Ben Duckett's bowl width. So once Shamar Joseph bowled a rug, Jaffa to get rid of him, I thought, they had a little spell of controlling the game pre-lunch, but ultimately, how I reflect on the day is it's been a brilliant day as a neutral, so to speak. 400 on the board, 9 wickets, drop catches, great catches. But the West Indies will feel that they should have bowled England out post-tea, I think, with the chances they created.
When you talk about Ben Duckett, 71 from 59, he leaves only 2% of his deliveries, which is ridiculous when the average is 25. The next best, I think, is Warner at 15. He certainly has a different style of play. You mentioned the drop catches. 2 of them were to Ollie Pope, who went on and hit his 600, third on English soil. He got dropped on 46 and then in the 50s as well. It's probably not his best 100 ever, but sometimes when you're not quite feeling it and you still manage to get to 3 figures, it can be exceptionally satisfying.
Absolutely. I mean, any 100, any time you get on the honours board at any one of the sort of the great grounds around the world, and Trent Bridge is certainly one of those in terms of tradition. You've had a good day. I think he was battling himself a little bit. You could tell that sort of like the rhythm perhaps wasn't quite there. The bat was a little bit crooked at times, but he kind of stuck it out. Yes, he got a little bit of luck. But he was one of the only England batters in that top sort of 5 who kind of looked as though he was trying to make a big score. The other guys would have taken a big score, would have got it very, very quickly given the way that they played. Brooke and co came out swinging. But Pope obviously thought to himself, you know what, there are tough times when you're a batter and you don't always get a situation where the opposition are giving you 2 bad balls and over. Why don't I just see if I can stick around for as long as I can and make as many as I can? And it was a fine innings, and one that sort of now looking at the scoreboard, 410 for 9, England will be very grateful for, because there could have been a situation where they ended up with lots of little cameos and nothing very substantial, and they fell maybe 100 short of what they should have made on what has been a pretty good batting day.
Yeah, so 134 for 2 in the first session, 125 for 2 in the second. Root went for 14, Brook for 36. Just quickly on Joe Root, we've had a chat both on air and off air, just about his footwork.
Yeah, I think at the moment, any batter that has any sort of trigger movements, and there are very few that stand stock still, you have times or you have days when everything is perfectly in sync. You're not really thinking about it. You do your back and across or your little forward press, and the timing of that is perfectly in sync with the release of the ball or pre the release of the ball, and everything's fine. Joe just looked a little bit today as though those movements of his back and across were just a little bit late, and so the weight was then not coming back into the ball at the right sort of time, and therefore he was struggling to find the timing and fluency that we relate to him when he's playing at his very best. But that's batting. 2 days are never the same, or very rarely the same. Unfortunately for him, Stokes got his head down, and England have now put a score on the board that the West Indies will be very concerned about.
Speaking of Stokes, it's hard to keep a good man down, isn't it, Stuart? Ben Stokes, 5 consecutive scores of single figures off the back end of the Indian series, and then the first innings at Lords as well, but came back, and particularly in that third session, played so well, 69 in the end before he was caught off a ball he probably was expecting to hit down the road.
Yeah, you can see the frustration on his face. I thought he played very calmly today. I think he set a nice tempo to his innings, particularly Sinclair. The blocking of the balls that were turning away from his bat just looked so solid. England are bowled out.
All out.
It.
That would have been your wicket dismissal, would it? Just off you go. Caught in the slips.
Show up.
Bashir, the last to fall here on day one, and England, having passed 400, have set themselves up very nicely indeed. But the wicket rudely interrupted your train of thought.
Yeah, and I thought Stokes looked like he had said, "Okay, this pitch suits me. This is the sun's out at Trent Bridge, quick outfield. I'm not going to give this away. I'm going to build an innings." He didn't play any sort of hoiks or dancing down the track over the top. He just waited for bad balls, played a couple of great pull shots in front of square that he's so quick onto that short ball. And I think that's why his frustration was even more evident when he managed to pull a half tracker to deep mid-wicket, because I think if his mindset was very much like, I'm going here, I'm being Ben Stokes in this new era, he'd have naturally just hit that for 6. Yeah. But I think because he'd been playing sensibly for him, he got caught a little bit in between, do I hit this down or do I hit it out the ground? And he ended up getting it on the bottom half of the bat that just went flat out to deep mid-wicket. So he probably I think if he sat down tonight and went, did I just doubt myself a little bit when that ball was lobbed down at me? Maybe.
Yeah.
And but I think his method was superb. There was a time when I thought he's not getting out here at all. He's just booking himself in, and you know he's allowed England to get to a really good score when you lose the toss and you've been inserted. I think any time you lose the toss, you've been inserted. You're happy with 400, but there'll definitely be a little bit of a feeling like they've left a few runs out there today.
No one came into this Test match and thought the spinners for the West Indies were going to make a mark, particularly here at Trent Bridge. But Sinclair, first of all, with his backflip as well, his round-off backflip, which is going to cause some entertaining moments right throughout this series. And then Hodge, his first trundle in Test match cricket, picks up a couple as well.
Yeah, and by the end of the day, as the West Indies were trying to count down towards the second new ball, they kind of exhausted all other options. Of course, Shamar Joseph is off the field again with cramp. We're hearing certainly a problem around the hamstring area. So they were a bowler down, and Brathwaite just had to try and get himself to the new ball as quickly as possible. As it happened, they delayed taking it because Hodge.
6 overs, I think it was.
Yeah, they ended up taking 4 wickets himself and Sinclair. Which was a little bit of a shock. You know, they were certainly a couple of half trackers in there to get rid of Stokes and Smith, and then a couple of good dismissals with the catches at slip. And suddenly West Indies find themselves after what should have been a very chastening day for them, because honestly, in terms of sort of the basics of being able to hold a line and length for a longer period of time than just 2 or 3 consecutive deliveries, but they didn't manage it. It was a bad day up until sort of like the back end of the last session, when suddenly England all out for just over 400. That could have been 500 and out of sight.
Yeah.
Now they had the challenge for them, I guess, tomorrow is to bat 50-60% better than they did at Lords and keep in this Test match. The surface certainly, you would think, would give them the opportunity to do that. It doesn't have much pace in it. England's bowling attack will have a bit more pace in it because of Mark Wood. And if they can get their heads down and go out there and bat, there's no reason why they shouldn't get up to parity or at least not be too far behind on that first inning.
OK, let's cast our eyes forward to the start of day 2 as well. So new bowling partnership at the top. So there's no Jimmy Anderson. Mark Wood comes in. Atkinson's coming off 12. Chris Wokes is there as well. Who do they turn to with the new ball?
I'm actually unsure who will take the new ball. Mark Wood has done it for England in the past. These Dukes don't tend to swing early. They go after about 10, 12 overs. So you might use the wobble seam of Gus Atkinson with the brand new ball to then allow Mark Wood to come on and swing it in his first spell. But Gus Atkinson hasn't done that for Surrey. He's not a new ball bowler for Surrey. So I personally would be looking towards Gus Atkinson and thinking, OK, come and set the tone of the day. Come and set the tone for the team. Lead the attack with the new ball. Put him under a bit of pressure because he's come off the back of a 12 for a brilliant debut, showed some brilliant attributes at Lords. But let's see how you go that first morning when the bell rings and how's your stomach feeling. You know, all that sort of controlling of everything that you've got to control your mind in Test match cricket. So I think that would be a good option. Gus Atkinson, Chris Wokes probably gets his first ever choice of ends in his 50th Test match, which he'll enjoy, and I think he'll be the Radcliffe Road end, trying to swing the ball away with the prevailing wind that comes across the ground. So, I think from the West Indies point of view, yes, they could have had a much better day by just taking some catches and being able to just be more consistent with the length and particularly the line they bowled, the amount of wide balls that got cut away and driven away today. But the last Test match that was played here, New Zealand batted first and got 570, I think, from memory, and lost the game. So they could arguably be in their change room going, do you know what, that's not a bad day. Day 2 and day 3 are the best times to bat at Trent Bridge. Let's try and make hay while the sun is literally going to shine tomorrow. But in my opinion, they've got to change their style from Lords. They prodded around, they poked around. If I was their batting coach in that change room, I'd be saying, look, Jimmy Anderson's gone, so the huge amount of control's gone. Mark Wood bowls short, sharp spells. Yep. Gus Atkinson can't have as good a week as he did last week, and it's a good pitch and a quick outfield. So almost have that 50 over tempo of, if they bowl width, bang, cut it away. Yep. So Hodge came in last week, first ball, pulled it away for 4.
That's right.
So there's a lot of ability to be able to play at that sort of level and that tempo and find the boundary. And along with Headingley, I think this is probably the best boundary hitting ground in the country. So don't prod outside off stump. If you get width, whack it away for 4 like Ben Duckett did, and put this. It's not an inexperienced bowling attack. Mark Wood's not played for a long time. Chris Wokes looked slightly short of overs last week. Let's put them under pressure. Let's see what they're like if they do go wide, bang, and we hit it 4. If they go short, we pull it to the stands. Let's go with that mindset.
No Jimmy Anderson, but he'll probably still pick the new pill tomorrow. Still have his mitts in there somehow for the West Indies. Brathwaite, the skipper, all eyes are going to be on him, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, he's gone through a rotten run. There was a period of time there 2-3 years back where England didn't know how to get him out.
Yeah.
But at the moment, whether it's sort of captaincy, whether it's the infrequency of West Indies playing Test match cricket, who knows? But he really has been struggling. He'll feel a little bit of the under the pump because of the decision at the toss. It's kind of been vindicated, but that all depends on how they bat. And yeah, he needs a score.
Yep.
End. Simple.
But come on, as an ex-opening batter, sunshine, quick outfield. You look at this pitch, you're thinking, God, if I'm out of nick, you want to come here and bat on that, don't you?
Yeah, I would. In situations like that, it wasn't the idea that you were just going to press the destruct button and just go out there and try and slog. But it was kind of like, I haven't got anything to lose. I'm going to pick my bat up a little bit and go out and be hyper positive at the beginning of my innings, see if I can find the middle of the bat.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many times the rhythm comes back to you when you do that.
Yeah, so a very interesting day indeed for day 1 of the Trent Bridge test, second test of the series. Also, W.G. Grace's birthday. He would have been absolutely loving the style of Ollie Pope at stages. He might have been turning in his grave for the backflip from Kevin Sinclair, though, out in the middle. Needless to say, it is all set up for the West Indies day 2. Please do join us then at the back end of that day's play. Butch, Broady, thank you so much. We'll catch you tomorrow.